So, we are on day 3 of chapter 11. Prom coming day. Yes, I am teaching. I'm part of the resistance.
There are 7 people here.
That's right. Everybody at home,
One white guy.
getting ready. So who we got out there? Who's getting their hair done? So maybe Jake at the beauty salon, getting your mani-pedi. Okay. So shout out to Jake getting his mani-pedi, and Owen getting his tips frosted, and his eyebrows. I was thinking about the eyebrows, like, you know, how they get them all thin and everything. What do you think? Get a nose ring or nose stud, like just a little. What do you think? Would that go? Huh? No, what do you think? What I looked at?
Get a septum ring.
What's that?
Get the ring like that.
Okay, so we're talking about things that could lead to trade deficits. Remember, I don't like that term because deficit sounds bad, but remember, America's economy has been the best when actually we've had trade deficits. And the thing is, if you want to know, is a trade deficit good or bad, it depends on what we do with all that money that comes back to us. Because anytime we have a trade deficit, we got an investment surplus. So when we had a trade deficit with Britain at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, did that turn out good for us? Yeah, because what did we do with, they were investing all this stuff in us, and we took that to make us more productive. You want to have a phone? No. All right. All right. So.
This is going on YouTube.
Yeah, it's going to last forever. Okay. So, I bet when Korea first kicked in after World War II, I bet they had a trade deficit. Did that hurt Korea that they had a trade deficit? No. What is so sad is you had other countries after World War II who said, we're not going to let America and Europe have neo-colonialism and take advantage of us. We're going to be self-sufficient. What's another word for self-sufficient? Poor. Right? You're saying, we're not going to let anybody invest in us. You know what China's doing now? China said, please, come on, invest in us. Right? Everybody wants other countries to invest in them. Because we've got more capital to pour into our technology and infrastructure to make our workers more productive. Is that taking advantage of people? So those countries that say, we're not going to let you take advantage, they fell behind. They lost decades of growth. Bad economics causes suffering. China and Korea didn't do that. They doubled down on, hey, please come invest, and look what's happening, right? And now, I like the idea of China investing in us. What's the only problem, as China invests in us, is what we're doing with that money they're sending us. What are we doing? We're buying widescreen TVs. Does that make us more productive? No. Okay, so that's just a little, no extra charge for that. So we'll go ahead and go with the term trade deficit. I just don't like it. Now, another thing that could cause us to buy more from another country than they buy from us is foreign government subsidies. What subsidies? When the government gives stuff to companies. Is this a good idea? No. But here's how it works. Okay, let's say you've got, let's use Japan as an example. A lot of people will complain about that. So let's say the Japanese and the American goods would cost the same. Now what could Japan do to get Americans to buy Japanese goods instead of American goods? They'd say, hey, charge a lower price. Well, how can the Japanese companies charge a lower price? The government can give them subsidy, give them money, give them tax cuts, something like that, to give them an unfair advantage, give them this extra so they can charge less. You with me? Now, the Japanese item costs less than the American item, people buy the Japanese. But stop and think about it. Is that really good for Japan? Does the government have its own money? Where do governments get money? Taxpayers. So really what this is welfare from Japan to us. Thanks, Japan. For anybody out there in Japan and watching, thank you. It's wealth transfer from Japanese taxpayers to the government, through the government, Japanese companies to American consumers. So we're gonna write them a big thank you letter. Okay? Now, today, really no one will say, I just don't like free trade, period. Even President Trump is gonna say, it's not that I'm against free trade. They're gonna say, I don't want other countries to be allowed to be unfair. And this is the type of stuff they're talking about with unfair. However, what could we do today if something like this is going on? We would say this is unfair trade practices. We could take them to something called the WTO, World Trade Organization. All of our countries are in it. Korea's in it, China's in it, America's in it. And if you try to take advantage, beat the other guys out with with unfair advantages and stuff like that, we can take you to the WTO and say, can you give us permission to put big taxes on this guy? You with me? This is a way of trying to prevent countries from getting into tariff wars. What's a tariff war? Helped bring about the Great Depression, right? If we slap a tax on your goods, what are you going to do to us? Put a tax on our stuff. We keep doing that all over the place. Now nobody's trading with anybody. Is that good? Is that going to help anybody? I mean, think about it. The way a lot of people think is if we'd be better not buying from other countries, and if everybody were poorer than us, then we'd be better if the world was just a desert outside of our country. Would that make us better off? Once again, I'm going to repeat. What's the main point of the chapter in Econ 1 lesson? What is the benefit of trade? Where do we get the benefit from trade? Imports. You with me? That is not debatable. That's really just a fact. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's just a thing. Okay? That's where the real benefit of trade comes from. So, if Americans can produce cheaper food, let's say beef, right? Then Chinese farmers can, but Chinese can make cheaper laptops. Does China benefit its workers by preventing American beef from coming in? No. They'd be better off with cheap beef. Does America benefit its people by not letting Chinese laptops come in? Now that's the thing. They can produce it cheaper than us, or better, or whatever. That's the benefit. Or like I keep giving that example, that Chinese doctor who grew an ear on that guy's arm. Remember they heard about that? Right? So,
Hearing about it?
What's that?
Hearing about it?
In my class.
No.
Like,
It's an
like
ear.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Doc. Okay, so, I didn't, pun intended there. Okay, now, what was the point? Then if you get your ear chopped off, you can grow an ear, put another one in there. But if China were a desert, right, then that doesn't exist. And Americans don't get to use that. Now, have Americans ever come up with anything that Chinese people could use? Yeah. Have Koreans ever come up with stuff that Chinese and Americans could use? See, so the more we have more countries getting more advanced, the more new products, the more trade, who benefits? Everybody. You with me? Okay. Moving on. Okay, now we're going to see the throwdown between the protectionists and the free trade advocates. You with me? So we'll get started with the protectionists on page 180. What is a protectionist, by the way? That's somebody who says, we're going to protect our country's jobs from competition from other countries. Okay? So we're going to throw tariffs on people when they try to sell stuff to us to protect jobs in our country. That's a protectionist. Okay? So like Kid Rock, who has barbecue grills launched in the air so he can shoot them. Okay? Well, I don't know. Maybe he's saying it's just when they use unfair trade practices, but it doesn't seem very nuanced, launching stuff in the air and shooting it. So, why do protectionists want to do protectionism? What do they want to do about it? Okay? So they're concerned. What is the number one concern of protectionists? They're afraid they're going to lose jobs. You with me? Because if we buy from foreigners instead of Americans, we're going to lose jobs. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. When we trade with other countries, it's just making us more efficient. We're going to find out in a little while. They do what they're efficient at, we do what we're efficient at, and then we trade. It makes us more efficient, right? Some people will lose jobs, but you know what? What have more Americans lost jobs to than trade? A lot more jobs. Technology. Okay? We've had a lot more people get their jobs replaced by robots than we have foreigners. So you want to get rid of technology? You want to make a law saying no more technology? That's what the Luddites did. Let's go attack the machinery that's going to put us out of work. Okay, where would we be if we'd taken that approach all throughout history? We'd still be in the year 1800. And we'd be poor. Okay? But, no, obviously we're not going to pass a law on no technology, so we don't get riled up about that. Okay. So, that's protectionists are worried about losing jobs to in our country. So what do they want? What are their policies? First, they want limitations on the quantities of certain goods. So an example, let's say, pay attention y'all, Tony, with me? Okay, so let's say Americans will buy 1 million motorcycles. By the way, don't buy a motorcycle. I teach driver's ed. Don't buy a motorcycle. Just think about, you ever go down the highway, going down 70 miles an hour down the highway? Imagine laying down on the highway and sliding at that speed. Don't buy a motorcycle. Okay, that's my little public service announcement. Okay, so anyway, Americans buying 1 million motorcycles a year. Now, what if Americans can produce 100,000 motorcycles a year? What limit on imports will they place? They'll say, we'll allow how many imported motorcycles into the country? Okay, this is not rocket surgery, guys. 900,000. If we're going to buy 1 million and we make 100,000, you're going to protect those American jobs. No more than 900,000 coming in from other countries. That's the first policy. Another policy, protective tariffs. They tax the other stuff. So let's say the American motorcycle maker can make a motorcycle for $2,500. And the Japanese can make it for $2,000. How much will they make the tax for it? I would say 501. To make it a little more expensive than the American, so you buy the American motorcycle and save American jobs. Does that make sense? Okay, so as you know, Mr. Rhodes, I'm neutral and objective, I'm completely unbiased in all this, so I gave a good 3 minutes to protectionism. Now the next 2 days will be free trade. Okay, so now let's talk about the advantages of free trade. Ready? And again, this I don't feel too bad about being so one-sided because there is really no argument here. This is, as I keep saying, this is not a Republican thing. Democrats would agree with what I'm saying here. Okay, they're going to have some caveats I'll talk about at the end. Some exceptions, like if people mistreat their workers or something like that. But in general, the principle of free trade, I guarantee Congresswoman Pelosi, she would agree with me on this, that free trade's a good thing. And she's going to say, we've got to make sure other countries keep their environment clean and respect their workers' rights, stuff like that. But the idea of itself, should we have free trade in theory, you're not going to find a major politician who disagrees with that. Okay? And by the way, economists too. What was one of the things that caused the Great Depression? Anybody remember? Touching on this subject? What's that? Remember tariffs? Smoot-Hawley tariff? No? Y'all don't remember the Smoot-Hawley tariff?
What is that?
We did learn about that. Don't say that. Okay, I gotta go back and edit this. We learned the Smoot-Hawley tariff. It was objective like number 7 on the New Deal thing. No, in U.S. history.
Oh, is
That's like last year's thing.
Yeah, yeah, but you still remember it, right?
No.
No, you're telling me like my life has no meaning.
Wasn't that the weird PowerPoint thing you made?
Yes, it was the weird cool. I think is the right adjective. PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Remember the farmer trying to sell stuff? We bought rags and they put a wall so we couldn't buy the stuff. You remember that? There we go.
Yeah.
My life has meaning. Let's move on before Danny gets to me and says, no, Mr. Rhodes, actually your life doesn't have meaning. Okay. The Smoot-Hawley tariff. Economists came out all together in one voice said, don't do this. It'll hurt the economy. And they were right. and everyone ignored them. And we went ahead with it, and it hurt the economy. Okay. So, that's why I don't feel too bad about being lopsided and being pro-free trade, because it's just right. Okay, so let's go with the arguments now for free trade. I'm back in your notes. Go with me, I'm back in the notes. The arguments for free trade, I'm on the back of the first page. Okay? Now supposedly, why do we have an economy? Why do we have an economy? Get past this numbers, and people talk about numbers of jobs and all that stuff. Just what's the point of an economy? Why do people work? If you were on a desert island, why would you go do anything? So you have food, right? So you don't suffer. To increase your happiness. So you have stuff you want. That's the point of an economy, having stuff you want. Okay? So trade is supposed to be for the consumer. Right? The company, when you call a company and they're all nice and happy with you, why? Because they want you happy, so you buy their stuff. Trade, the reason we like trade, trade is good for the consumer. Trade benefits the consumer. How? So you have to write something down here. Okay? What is the benefit of trade? Trade increases competition. Trade increases competition. Got this, Sean? Okay. Trade increases competition. Rose steps off screen to grab 18. This is, of course, filled with water. Not coffee. Okay, so why do we want competition? What are the two ways competition helps workers, consumers? What are the, as a consumer, what are the two things you want?
Consumer.
As a consumer, you want a low price.
Low price.
What else do you want?
And
To get out of this
Better
class.
quality.
No, that's not, no, what?
good quality.
Better quality. Better quality, okay? So, what does competition do to prices?
Cheaper.
Pushes it down. What's it do to quality? Raises. It make sense? So free trade makes that happen. Let's take as an example American cars. Are American cars, would you rather have a car made today in America or a car made in 1970? Today. Today, definitely. When I was in high school, I had, did I tell you about my car I had in high school?
No.
I had a 1976 Oldsmobile Toronado. Yeah. Yeah. The hood, when you shut the hood, it went, and then it shut, like it bent, okay? My favorite, there's lots of things I can say about it, right? But my favorite story was, I was driving along with my buddy one day, and whenever I turned, I heard I stopped, pulled over, stopped. I walked around front, my buddy walked around back, he started laughing. Uh-oh. The bumper had fallen halfway off, right? It rusted through and fallen halfway off. Okay, now do not do this. This is really, okay, I was a teenage male, AKA I was stupid, okay? So what did I do? I laid on my trunk and held up that side of the bumper so he could drive us home. What? Yeah, that was really, people drive by, hey, okay, don't do that. I could get killed. Okay, but anyway, the point is, American cars back then, this wasn't like, the car was like 10 years old, right? Okay? And the bumper had rusted through. Are American cars 10 years old now? Well, you have a car made today, 10 years later, 10 years after now, is the bumper going to rust off? No. Why did American cars get better? I'm not even talking about Toyotas and Hondas. By the way, Toyotas and Hondas, a lot of those are actually made in America. But if a car made in America today versus a car made in America back then, is it better? Yeah. Did we watch Commanding Heights yet where they talked about the Indian car companies? I don't think we did. That's coming up.
Yep. No,
we
don't
didn't.
need to watch it.
I think it's going to be in episode 2, coming up next week. Okay? Are cars that people can have in India, are they going to be better today than before India opened up? Yeah. Because if you have competition and you create bad cars, no one's going to buy it. Does that make sense? Maybe I need to go back and edit out that. Don't, for those of you at home, don't lay on your trunk driving around. Actually, people die. People die doing that. It's not, no, you can get killed. Don't do that. Very stupid. Okay. Number 2. Protectionism operates on flawed mercantilist thinking. By the way, I'm not joking when I say don't lay on them. I'm just thinking. Somebody's gonna do it. Don't do that. Okay. Mercantilist thinking. Okay. Remember the mercantilist? Remember, when I say mercantilism, you say, boo. Tony, you with me? So mercantilism. Boo. There we go. Okay. So, protectionism is like mercantilism. They're both flawed in this way. Ready to write this down? They focus on selling more than we purchase. Selling more than we purchase. Pregnant pause. In order to increase our stash of cash. Selling more than we purchase in order to increase our stash, like our pile of cash, of money. Got that, Danny? Rather than focusing on what? What should they be focusing on? Huh? What? What's the point of the economy? The well-being of the people. Rather than focusing on the well-being of the people. Remember that cartoon of the mercantilist who said, the king said, okay, to the advisor, so wait a second, we sold all our food. He goes, yeah. He said, so they've got our food and we've got all their gold, but we don't have anything to eat. Are the people better off? You with me? The focus should be on the people's well-being, not on getting more cash. And that's what protectionists are doing. Oh, we gotta send lots of stuff to people so we can get their money. It's not magic. It's not. Well, you're not better off then. Again, what's the benefit of trade? Imports. Imports. Okay. Number 3. Protectionism does not lead to more jobs. It just moves around the unemployment. Okay. So, let's say Sue is going to buy a motorcycle. Don't, by the way, don't buy a motorcycle. Did I already mention this?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, she's going to buy a motorcycle, and she's going to buy it, so she lives in America, she's going to buy a motorcycle, she's going to buy it from an American motorcycle maker, Tony. Okay, Tony. So, you're making American motorcycles, but Tony charges $2,500. Okay? Now, Alex is competition. What country do we have? Japan. Okay, so he makes motorcycles for $2,000. So Sue, if you had freedom, what would you do? Which would you buy? You buy the Japanese, cheaper one, right? Oh, no. But then I come in, I'm the politician, right? And I say, I've got to save American jobs. So what do? I slap a tariff on that, right? So now, what do? You buy the Tony one. And we say, yay! Look at the American job saved. But remember, Econ 1 lesson, what is that one lesson? Don't think just here and now. Look, the whole picture long term. We got to think about what we can't see. So it's true, people say, well, we don't care about him. As a Christian, I care about people everywhere because they're all made in the image of God. But if you're not thinking like that, a lot of people go, oh, save Americans, who cares about the Japanese? Right? Now, I'm not okay with that, but a lot of people are. Well, actually, there are going to be American jobs lost too. Let's think about it. A, foreign countries lose the dollars, they need to buy American goods. So let's say Alex was going to buy, with that money, so because Alex never got those dollars, those American dollars, right? He was going to buy an American MacBook. Okay? So let's say Junha was in Silicon Valley making a MacBook, And he was gonna sell it so that if you had been left with freedom, you would have bought that Japanese motorcycle, and he would have gotten American dollars. But again, what is he gonna do with those dollars? Is he gonna keep them as a keepsake? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, if Japan did keep all those dollars, I got a great idea. I got a great path to the good life. We're just gonna print a whole bunch of pieces of paper, call it money, and send it to countries, they'll send us stuff. Here we go, Japan, here's all these dollars. We don't have to work anymore, let's just go to the beach. We'll have Japan make stuff for us, China make stuff for us, and we never have to work. Guess what would eventually happen? It would eventually occur to them, we're being had, and they said, why don't you guys start making some stuff of your own? You with me? So he's gonna take that money and wanna spend it on something. So he was gonna take that $2,000 and buy a MacBook. But now, he didn't get the money, so he can't buy the MacBook. What does that mean? We saved a motorcycle maker's job, but at the expense of, well, a Japanese motorcycle's job, but we don't care about him. I do, but well, he's another country. Who cares about him? So, but at the expense of an American MacBook maker's job. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's the first point. Second point under just shifting the unemployment around. Taxes on imports. See where I am? B. Taxes on imports take Americans' money. It says, boy, should be to buy other American goods.